Today, we're going to be discussing why and how AERODROME and Velodrome are changing the entire DeFi space. First things first, I want to check out how much the DEX industry is worth, and I'm over here on DeFi Llama, and we can see total value locked is currently about $109 billion, and we can see this increasing pretty substantially lately, like almost like a double up from 50 billion at the start of 2024 to now about mid-2024, over $100 billion in total value locked currently. So let's go ahead and take a look at the TVL, short for total value locked, rankings among DEXs, and we can see obviously Uniswap is going to be at that #1 spot by a very significant margin at $6 billion right there in total value locked TVL. And then the second coming up is PancakeSwap with about 2.1 billion TVL, and that's actually a fork of Uniswap. Now this is the main one I want to talk about, AERODROME, which is currently ranked #6 and has about nearly a $700 million TVL. AERODROME is on the base network, and this is the only chain it supports here, and we can see Uniswap does support 19 chains, one of them being the base network, but its dominance isn't, that much compared to the dominance of AERODROME, and I'm going to show you guys what I mean by that. So here we are, base network. There's a total value locked of about 1.75 billion, and again, that #1 is AERODROME by a significant margin, we can see here, and we could really see just how dominant AERODROME is with the base chain, because if we take a look at like the number 10 in TVL for this section of the base chain, 25 million going to Sushi compared to a 700 million for AERODROME. The only difference here is AERODROME V3, which is actually a fork of Uniswap V3, has a TVL of $90 million compared to Uniswap's $250 million, but keep in mind, AERODROME just released this V3 about a month ago, and it's already accumulated $90 million in TVL. All in all, when we're looking at concentrated liquidity, Uniswap is going to be the largest decentralized exchange, but if we're looking at full range liquidity, AERODROME is going to be the largest decentralized exchange. I think over time they're going to accumulate even more and more TVL in their V3 over here, because about 3 weeks ago this was sitting at about, I want to say 30 million, so they've been increasing their TVL by about $20 million a week, which is pretty significant. Now what is Velodrome? Well, AERODROME and Velodrome are basically the same. The only difference is AERODROME is deployed on the base network and Velodrome is deployed on the Optimism network. So the reason why we're mainly going to be focusing on AERODROME in this video is because the base network has a TVL of 1.74 billion and the Optimism network has a TVL of 775 million. And of course, as we mentioned earlier, AERODROME is currently the 6th largest decentralized exchange. Velodrome is all the way down here at the #20 spot with a TVL of 147 million compared to that, 600, nearly 700 million on AERODROME. Velodrome was also released a long time before AERODROME was released, but the reason why AERODROME is so big is because of the base network. It has been blowing up recently. Let's go ahead and hop onto the platform though, and we're greeted with this nice little waiting screen with swap and liquidity options at the top with an option to connect our wallets. And once we go ahead and connect our wallet, we can see a few more options to choose from. We can now see at the top swap, dashboard, liquidity, vote, lock, and incentivize. The dashboard section is going to be for viewing your positions on the platform, and the incentivize section is for projects that want to incentivize specific liquidity pools. So for example, if I want to incentivize people to vote on sort of a proposal on a project, I can go ahead and deploy, say for example, 1 ETH right here, and that's going to be split up among all the people who vote. You guys probably aren't going to have to worry about this section, but I thought I'd just mention it so you guys know what it is. Let's talk about the swap page though, and it's pretty basic, pretty traditional. You basically just swap one asset for another asset. So say I want to swap 1,000 AERO for Ethereum. It's going to go ahead and fetch me the best rates of all the AERO to ETH pools on the AERODROME network. So as we can see, it's going to be the most profitable to trade AERO for USDC and then the USDC to ETH. That's going to get us the lowest possible rate. This is called a multiple route liquidity pool, and this could be done with any token that is supported on the AERODROME platform. You don't have to do it just with AERO. You can do it, let's say, with BCT here, whatever that is. It's going to go ahead and calculate the best routes, getting you the lowest fee. Again, this one is going to be BCT, sorry, to USDC and then to ETH. Now those last two were a bit different as I went through 3 routes to get to the final destination, the token you actually want. This one I put in DAI plus to ETH, and this one is going to go through 4. With that being said, we can also provide liquidity for these assets in this liquidity section because, of course, for people to trade and make those trades in the swap section, there has to be liquidity provided. And that is where we are going to be able to earn income for providing liquidity to these pools. Now, this is a bit different from your traditional liquidity model where you have a person like me who wants to earn income on their assets by providing liquidity from these pools in the form form of fees, of course, from people making these trades in that swap section that I just went over. So you have asset 1 and asset 2, and the person deploys both of those in these liquidity pools. And all in all, the fees from this are going to be about 0.3%. AERODROME, though, you're not actually earning these fees. You're earning AERO tokens. They're basically putting more and more AERO tokens into circulation to pay out the people providing liquidity instead of giving them fees. Basically, the token is constantly inflating to pay out these liquidity providers, but that's only part of it. Now, off the bat, this sounds really, really bad, like maybe a red flag in your book, but I promise you, just let me explain. For Uniswap, really the only purpose of the Uni token is governance. You know, people vote on proposals based on how much Uni tokens you have, but you as an investor, probably only having like a few $1,000s, if that, in Uni token, because obviously you want to invest in other assets, aren't going to have, you know, much of a say. It's not going to be you making the decisions because you have these other people who have millions and millions of dollars of the Uni tokens. They're going to be the ones voting and swaying these votes and basically making the decisions. AERODROME, and the same concept, by the way, applies to Velodrome as well, plans to do something a lot different to drive intrinsic value to their token. So we can see in liquidity section by the active liquidity pools, this pair right here, VAMM-USDC/AERO, has about $47,000, let's say, in fees recently. Now you may be asking, since the people providing liquidity aren't getting the fees, then where are the fees going? Well, these fees will actually be going to people who vote on where the AERO incentive is going. Now it might sound a bit confusing, but pretty much the people who hold AERO token can go over to this lock section up here at the top, and then they can go ahead and lock up their AERO. So let's say I have 1,000 that I want to lock up, and you could choose how long you want to lock it up for, and the longer you lock it up for, the more voting power you're going to get. So locking it for 4 years, which is the maximum, is going to give you 996 AERO voting power, whereas locking it up for, say, 2 years is going to give you about 500, and locking it up for, let's say, about, if I can get this down here, okay, let's just do a month, is going to give you 24 AERO voting power. So if I did this, I can go ahead and go over to the vote section and choose where the AERO incentives are going to be allocated to, which liquidity pools they're going to be going to. In exchange for voting, I'm going to be rewarded with a percentage of the fees generated from that liquidity pool. So this is a means of incentivizing people to keep their tokens in the ecosystem instead of just being rewarded with those fees and immediately selling them off like most people do, say, on Uniswap. It's combating that problem by allowing people to keep their tokens in the AERO ecosystem. So the thing I would do here if I was deployed into a pool, say this one with a 105% APR, I would get those AERO tokens. Of course, you're not going to get the fees. As we mentioned earlier, you're going to be rewarded with AERO tokens, and then every week you can go ahead and lock those up in the lock section. As we mentioned earlier, you can lock them up, you know, new ones you get every week, and then you go ahead and go to the vote section and vote on that same pool you're deployed into and get those fees. That means more AERO tokens will be deposited and paid out to the people in that pool that you voted for. So basically, from doing this, not only would I be getting fees, but I'd actually be getting AERO token, which would of course be locked up again, but after it becomes unlocked, you can do whatever you want with it. You can go ahead and sell it if you want to, or you can deposit it back in and just let it compound. You also don't have to be deployed into a pool you vote on. That's not a requirement. You can go ahead and vote on any single one of these. You could do it, one of them with the highest APR, say this one, 140%. You know, obviously you would probably want to do that one compared to, say, a 14 or 15% APR, because you're going to be getting more rewards. But then again, by doing this, it's important to realize you're not going to be driving more AERO into that pool you're actually deposited in. Overall, I think AERODROME and Velodrome are doing really cool things in their ecosystem, incentivizing people to keep their tokens instead of just selling them off like people do on Uniswap when they get those fees as rewards is just awesome, and doing so allows the ecosystem to keep on growing. I hope that cleared up some confusion and you guys understand it a lot better than you did before watching the video. Now, the only reason I found out about AERODROME and Velodrome and what's going on in their ecosystem is through Builder Wealth, because honestly, there's not that much information out there about it right now. Builder Wealth actually hosted an event where they brought on the AERODROME and Velodrome team and answered any questions that anyone had and cleared some things up, explained the project and their future vision. They actually do tons of events like this all the time. All of these right here that you're seeing are so far the events that have occurred in 2024. They bring on new and existing projects all the time who will tell the people in the community what's going on in the DeFi space and what they're doing. Obviously, this is going to be an invite-only community. There's about a little over 100 people in it right now. If you do want to learn more about it, though, check that link down in the description. It's a program where the Builder Wealth team is going to help you build out a passive income portfolio. They'll teach you everything you need to know about DeFi, clear up any confusions, and be with you every step of the way. You'll get access to a community with tons of like-minded investors, and there's tons of very informative videos and lessons about DeFi. So again, guys, if that sounds interesting to you, go ahead and check that link down below in the description. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed. Be sure to drop a like and subscribe for more videos and hit that bell. See you guys in the next one.